You were unequivocal, Mr. Vice President, back in 2018 during the Kavanaugh controversy and hearings. And you said that women should be believed. You said this: for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she is talking about is real. Whether or not she forgets the facts, whether or not it's been made worse or better over time. She's going to be going on national television on Sunday. Tara Reade is coming forward in the glaring lights. To use your words, should we not start off with the presumption that the essence of what she's talking about is real? She says you sexually assaulted her.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously when she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have
We talked a little bit before starting recording about Alyssa Milano, who's one of the early advocates for Me Too. And she tweeted back in 2017, "If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write Me Too as a reply to this tweet." And this was one of the founding moments for the Me Too movement, right? And now, 2 years and a half, she's come out to explain her silence over the sexual allegations against Joe Biden, who I suppose who's the presumptive nominee of her party. You know, there's no way in hell she supports the Republicans. So. And she wrote that I don't feel comfortable throwing away a decent man that I've known for 15 years in this time of complete chaos without there being a thorough investigation. But so she's been getting backlash because people are pointing out that like if you go back to the Kavanaugh hearing, she was really loud, and she was always on TV doing interviews and saying that he shouldn't be nominated for the Supreme Court, and
she was literally at the hearing right behind him.
Exactly. There's that picture where she's behind him, and what critics are saying, so especially on the conservative side, they're saying that they also were saying that they do not want to throw away a decent man, namely Kavanaugh, without there being a thorough investigation, you know, and that is a point that is fair, right? Because if you go back, and this is not, obviously her stance is not the stance of every single feminist or proponent of the Me Too movement. There is a bunch of other people who've been speaking about this and defending Tara Reade and saying that she should be heard, you know. But the controversy is that the group, so the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, the group said that they won't pay for Tara Reade's lawyer, but they recommended her to some lawyers. So which kind of, like, people were now asking, so if, for example, there's someone who claims to have been sexually assaulted by a prominent senator and someone who's running to become president, what is your legal fund for if you can't fund that person?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I want to get your reaction into this before we move forward.
Because specifically to this is that we have, like, in the political system doesn't have a way of dealing with sexual assault allegations, and you would think they would have it like till now. Like, you have one of the major ones was with Anita Hill, and then you would think and then you get to the Kavanaugh hearing and they're still doing the same mistake, and that mistake is basically turning the sexual assault into a political football according to who is being accused, right? So with the Christine Blasey Ford case that happened, Christine Blasey Ford sent that letter to well, she basically got in touch with her local, I believe, congresswoman, and then the congresswoman gave the letter to Dianne Feinstein, who was on the House Judiciary Committee, and Christine Blasey Ford never wanted to do anything publicly. She felt like it was her, let's say, responsibility, and yeah, it was her responsibility to let people know, okay, look, the guy you're about to confirm allegedly did this and that to me, right? But what happened is that she gave that letter to Dianne Feinstein, the Democrat, and then the letter ends up getting leaked to the media, and the Intercept reports about it September 12th. And after that is pressure upon pressure to get Christine Blasey Ford to basically testify, right? So in front of the Senate, they wanted her to testify, and it just became a whole political football. So at that point, it didn't really become about finding out the truth. It became about how much can we delay this hearing, because you have to understand, like, they didn't as soon as Kavanaugh got announced, they didn't want Kavanaugh to be put on the Supreme Court, right? And then this comes out and they use her as a political football, and you completely see the disregard of finding the truth. Yes, they were asking for FBI investigations, but you have to understand that they had the letter back in July, and we could have done this a bit before and still kept it anonymous, but they waited until the last minute to finally release it. And that was the Republican defense. It's like, why would you wait so long to start the process of maybe having an investigation, or why did you just release it now? And I think that's what keeps happening, and they keep making the same mistake. They keep turning these sexual assault allegations into political football, and instead of turning it into like fact-finding missions. Like, they're not. It seems like ultimately it's a disservice to the woman who was allegedly sexual assault, and to the person being accused, because nobody at the end is going to find out the truth, and you're leaving it up to the public to ultimately make their determinations about what's true and what's not true. And you can't fault the public in choosing where the political leanings lie, into choosing who they believe and who they don't believe. Like, that's just it's an imperfect world we live in, right? But I think it's the fact that you have your senators and even Congress people that are in these positions where, instead of really trying to find out the truth, they just try to use it as a political football, and it's a disservice to the Me Too movement. So now you get into the Joe Biden case, and I actually will love the way Joe Biden answered it. Like, he said, you can't disregard what the woman is saying. Like, yeah, she has the right to say what she has to say, and I have the right to say, look at the facts.
She has a right to say whatever she wants to say, but I have a right to say, look at the facts. Check.
And I'm like, that's a perfect response, but now I need that standard to be applied to anybody, regardless of their political leanings. That's ultimately what I want to come of this, because yes, they've been so imperfect throughout all these years, and there's a difference between the court of public opinion and court of and the actual court of justice, right? There's definitely a difference there. Like, you can only regulate the court of public opinion by so much. People are going to have their own opinion. It doesn't matter, right? But I really hope that this standard that Joe Biden set forth today is the standard that is put not only because I believe fundamentally the main people in the Me Too movement that stand to benefit the most, which is regular folks like you, me, our sisters, our mom, people that aren't in the public eye. Like, those people who stand to gain the most from this movement, I believe they keep their same energy throughout. They really want the voice of the woman to be heard, and then also the facts to be found. They don't care about the political leanings, because ultimately it's a crime what the person committed, and you want to find out the truth, right? So I hope that this standard that Joe Biden put forth last Friday during that Morning Joe interview, I hope that's a standard that stays for those people that are in the public eye. So the Alyssa Milanos or whatever, I need them as public figures to keep that standard to anybody. It doesn't matter their political leanings. The standard that the women have the right to say what they need to say. Their voices have the right to be heard. But also, we also need to look at the facts and wait for the facts to come out before castigating somebody's character on a case we don't even know ultimately what happened, right? So I hope that's the standard moving forward.
Yeah. And yeah, if I can just say a few words here, is that, yeah, man, the standards needs to be applied all across the board. And I think it was quite a disservice that the Me Too movement there was this saying, believe all women, that became associated with the Me Too movement. I think that saying did a disservice to the Me Too movement. Perhaps it's just a PR problem. It's never intended. It was never intended to be seen as what it has become. But like in the aftermath of the Kavanaugh hearing, you had the founder of the Me Too movement, Tana Burke, who wrote a letter to Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, and she basically said we heard her, we saw her, we believed her, and then we believe all women became a sort of like a slogan representing the movement. But I think just the blank statement of believe all women, instead of what Biden has now said, we hear the women and then we go into a fact finding mode and we evaluate the allegations, and if someone needs to be punished, they'll be punished. Like, so it's properly done, instead of just always picking a side before doing an investigation. So and you sum it up perfectly there, because Democrats have like, they've not been doing this correctly. So if you go back to the Kavanaugh hearing, which quite personally I thought the whole thing was rushed, and they needed to be the FBI investigation was not adequate. They didn't interview all the relevant people, so it's hard to just like form a conclusion on something like that, right? Because you need all the facts, all the possible facts that you can have there in order to form an opinion, and Republicans didn't want all the facts to be out. Democrats simply wanted to delay and delay and delay, and what was one mistake that they did, the Democrats, right? So on I believe it was September 26th, before Dr. Christine Blasey Ford testified, the Judiciary Committee Democrats wrote a letter to Trump, which it was titled "Withdraw Kavanaugh Nomination, Order FBI Investigation." So before even her testimony, they were already saying you need to withdraw Kavanaugh's nomination. So that is not the standard that you should be applying. If anything, you should be writing the letter after the testimony, right? And there were prominent Democrats who signed on to the letter. So there was Dianne Feinstein, there was Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and Amy Klobuchar, among many others. So if anything, the Democrats need to apply the same standard that they're now applying to at least that Joe Biden is attempting to have people apply to him, which is actually a pretty good standard, even though I believe he still need to find a way to go through those documents in a way that's appropriate and that wouldn't expose him to, given that he's running an election, And my last point would be that the media also have to play a different role in this. So if you look at, for example, what has been happening with Tara Reade, right? The allegations came out in around March 20th in The Intercept, you know. So ever since then, she's not had an interview. Perhaps this weekend changed things, but she's not had an interview on CNN, MSNBC, or any other prominent centrist or left-leaning cable news. You know, Fox News has attempted to get her on. Sean Hannity wanted to have her call the show, you know, on Fox News, and she refused to do so. You know, so the media has to go into the fact-finding mode that we're talking about, and not simply just ignore it, which has been like, which was seen by so many people. Because I remember, I think I talked to you about this like 2-3 weeks ago about this, you know, before it became a national topic. And I was like, okay, there are these allegations, and I heard her interview on the podcast where she made the allegations, and like I read the article. I was like, okay, what's happening? The New York Times took quite a while, but although they've published a piece about their investigation, but they took a while. And I think like in their situation, it was correct because you needed to investigate, you know. And but that was not the same thing that was happening with Kavanaugh, although the Kavanaugh hearing were time sensitive, right? So it's not completely apples and oranges, but the media has to be better at this, and they did fail, and they failed back in the 1990s when Juanita Broderick was accusing Bill Clinton. They basically just ghosted her, you know. And so the media also needs to do a better job at this. And this is not